There are hundreds of basic and alternate recipes in Satisfactory 1.0. Some of them are absolutely amazing, whilst others not so much. So I've made it my mission in Satisfactory to compare every single recipe in the game to inform you guys on what the best and worst recipes are. So welcome to the best recipes in Satisfactory 1.0 series. Today's video is all about the magnetic field generator. This video is a bit different to all the other best recipe videos I've done here in the channel. That's because the magnetic field generator only actually has one recipe, and it's produced right here in the assembler. However, there's a catch, and that's because recipes like the electromagnetic control rod have alternate recipes, and when you click on things like the versatile framework, again this has alternate recipes. Then this alternate recipe has more alternate recipes that then have more alternate recipes. So in theory, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of different combinations to actually make the magnetic field generator. So without further ado, let's begin. For this project, we are making 10 magnetic field generators per minute. This requires 10 electromagnetic control rods as well as 25 versatile frameworks. And this is actually a pretty good recipe to get started on, since it's actually relatively simple, since the only thing we actually need is coal, limestone and iron, and of course water is completely voluntary, as I'll talk about throughout today's video. But let's begin with our steel beam recipe. And this is the recipe I've gone for, and yes, it does incorporate a few alternate recipes. Starting with the modular steel beam recipe. This recipe essentially blends concrete with steel ingots, which ends up saving you on coal and iron. Of course though, you do have to end up consuming a little bit more limestone, but in my opinion, this is a fantastic recipe. So that's our first alternate recipe. Our second alternate recipe is something called wet concrete, which combines water with limestone, which essentially saves you on limestone. You can get a ton of concrete from it. It's a pretty good recipe, but of course, again, you do have to get water involved. Another alternate recipe is something called solid steel ingots. This essentially means that you save a bit of iron and a bit of coal, because you're not combining iron ore and coal together. You're combining iron ingots and coal. So you do have to make the iron ingots before you turn it into steel, but again, you end up saving a good amount of iron and coal. So I think it's entirely worth it. And lastly, we've got pure iron ingots, another alternate recipe. And again here, we're combining iron ore and water to save on iron. So even though our versatile framework recipe is a basic recipe, we are using 1, 2, 3, 4 alternate recipes in order to make our steel beams to then make that. So it just goes to show how many ways there are to craft this thing. Something else that we need for our 25 versatile frameworks is 12.5 modular frames. And as we can see, our alternate recipes don't end here. Because when it comes to our modular frame, I'm using a recipe that combines reinforced iron plates with steel pipes, but I don't want to get more coal involved. So instead I've used another alternate recipe called iron pipe. This recipe can be found in your constructor. Unfortunately though, it is a rather steep recipe in regards of iron, because for every 4 iron ingots you have, you only produce 1 steel pipe. The best thing about it though, is that it consumes 0 coal per minute, which is fantastic if you're trying to keep logistics nice and simple. We also use something else as well called iron wire, which I'll be showing you in just a moment's time, where again, you don't use any sort of copper, you just use iron. So being able to only have one resource coming in makes the logistic part of your factory 10 times easier. And we can see this example when we talk a bit more about the reinforced iron plates, where believe it or not, this might come as a bit of a shock, but I'm using an alternate recipe called stitched iron plates, where we're using iron plates and wire rather than iron plates and iron rods or screws, whatever it is, because I don't like screws, and this is a lot easier. I've made an entire video talking about reinforced iron plates, and this is the best recipe for it, in my opinion, where again, we're turning our wire into iron ingots. So our iron plates goes into iron ingots, our wire goes into iron ingots, and our steel pipe goes into iron ingots. In total giving us 242 iron ingots. This is exactly what I was talking about towards the beginning of the video, because the versatile framework recipe that we are using is just the basic variant because there's only one variant of it, but I've used 9 alternate recipes to make it. This is why videos like this are rather important, because there are dozens if not thousands of different ways to actually produce certain items. But of course, we don't just need 25 versatile frameworks to make our 10 magnetic field generators. We also need 10 electromagnetic control rods, and as you can probably see instantly, our alternate recipes don't end there. And let's begin with our stator, because I've used something rather similar that I've used compared to my modular frame, and that is iron pipe and iron wire, where again the only resource we are consuming is iron ore with a sprinkle of water. It is honestly incredible what you can do with just iron ore, and it makes planning logistics so simple to do. I love it. And in all honesty, 15 stages requiring 133 iron ore isn't really that bad, because again we are using another alternate recipe here, but if I was to use steel pipes without the iron variant, and again wire without the iron variant, we'll be consuming copper, coal, and iron. So we've managed to save ourselves a lot of time logistically, and we've kept things nice and simple. Lastly, we need 10 AI limiters, and again we've got a couple more alternate recipes to talk about. The very first one is our 50 copper sheets. To make our 50 copper sheets, in theory you don't need that, and you don't need that. You only need copper ingot and copper ore. But why have I added all these water logistics? Well, first of all, we are using steamed copper sheets, and then we are using pure copper ingots. And the reason as to why I'm doing that is to save a bunch of copper. Is it worth it? Well, let's very quickly find out. When we times all of this by 10, it is going to cost us 100 copper ingots to make our 50 copper sheets. And then of course, copper ore to copper ingot is a 1-to-1 ratio. So because of this recipe, we are saving 80% of our copper, which I know we're only making 50 copper sheets here, but in my world, I am making hundreds, if not over 1,000 copper sheets. So I am saving hundreds of copper ore by using this tactic. Of course, you do have to get water involved, and it's refinery, so it's going to cost you more power, and it's going to take up more space, but if you are trying to save a resource, this is pretty good. But of course, we've also got another recipe to talk about here as well, and that is our quick wire, where, yet again, I haven't done the simple method, because the simple method would be to completely get rid of that and only have this. Caterium ore going into our caterium ingots going into our quick wire. So why have I made things more difficult for myself? Well, again, let's do the exact same experiment like what I did over here with our copper sheets. Let's say that I didn't use this alternate recipe and that I didn't use this alternate recipe either. How many caterium ore do I need to make our 200 quick wire? Well, again, when we times all of this by 10, 200 quick wire requires 40 caterium ingots. Then 40 caterium ingots require 120 caterium ore. So again, you're saving like 70% of your caterium. Yes, you do have to get a bit of copper involved, that's completely fine, and of course you have to get some water in there as well, but caterium is not a very common resource, so if I'm able to save 70% of it by doing a very simple alternate recipe, I would most certainly take that. So despite there only being one magnetic field generator recipe, I've still used 17 alternate recipes to make it, so it just goes to show how important alternate recipes can actually be. But now let's fully analyze everything we've just seen. Starting with the raw resources, where we are going to need 689.4 water per minute, 54 copper per minute, 34 caterium, 409 iron, 400 limestone, and 268 coal. Now when it comes to water in theory, you actually need 0 of this per minute, if you don't want to do any of the alternate recipes that I've showed you in today's video. But the reason as to why this is at 689.4 is because we end up saving everything else that you see here. So I recommend doing it, because bear in mind, one water extractor gives you 120 water per minute, so this is like 5 and a bit water extractors, so that's not too bad at all. Again, 54 copper, basically nothing, 34 caterium, basically nothing, 409 iron and 400 limestone sounds like a lot, but bear in mind, we are making 10 magnetic field generators. This is not an early game item at all, so 409 iron and 400 limestone is barely anything in reality, and 268 coal is not that bad at all. When it comes to the machines, we can see that we need 33 assemblers consuming 461 megawatts, 11 foundries consuming 160 megawatts, 27 refineries consuming 775 megawatts, and 15 constructors consuming 53 megawatts. So in total, we are consuming 1,449 megawatts to make our 10 magnetic field generators. So in my opinion, this is the best magnetic field generator recipe in Satisfactory 1.1. However, you don't need to do exactly what I have done. For example, you don't need to use pure ingots. Like I've mentioned a few times, you do have to then consume more resources, but it's completely up to you, I suppose. Also, when it comes to things like modular frames and our stators, you can use your regular steel pipe recipe, which then means that you are going to consume extra coal, and then when it comes to our wire, you can use the copper wire. But when it comes to logistics, I think this is far simpler to do. And then lastly, again, our copper sheet and quick wire. You don't need to make steam sheets, then pure copper ingots. You could just do sheet to ingot to ore. That's completely fine, but again, gonna consume more resources. And with quick wire, you don't need to do this either, but again, you save a bunch of resources. I think it's really fun to do as well, and I still recommend it. Everything that I've shown in today's video, I recommend. Otherwise, I would not have shown it. But regardless, do let me know in the comments down below, what's your favourite magnetic field generator recipe? I had a lot of fun making today's video, and we are nowhere near done with our best recipe series. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be covering a bunch of different space elevator parts for our new best recipe series. So if you are interested in that, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and of course let me know in the comments down below. But without further ado, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.